Hey everyone, I have a very fun lesson today. I have been asked over and over again, hey, can you draw some scary versions of some Pokemon characters? So I thought, you know what, I've never done that before, and I want to make this a series, and I think I'm going to do that. But I want to give a disclaimer. I am using reference, so I have the image up here on the screen that you can see in the upper left. That's the actual card that I'm using for reference, but I'm going to be changing the stance a little bit and some of the body to make it a little bit more horrific. And at the same time, I'm going to be explaining my process and like how I'm building everything, including my materials. So of course I have my 4B pencil right here. And then off to the side, where did I put it? I have a black Prismacolor pencil. So I'm going to be giving instruction here in the beginning, and then I'm going to be cutting off into a time lapse because I'm going to be condensing several hours worth of drawing into, a recording session. And I'm just going to be speaking over it. So that way I can give you guys instruction, give you a better understanding of how I'm making this stuff while seeing me draw it. And I think that'll be a lot of fun. So now, without further ado, let's jump into this. So Scyther is a character that I saw, and I was really intrigued by it, mainly because it has insect mixed in with it, but also there's a little bit of dinosaur, there's a little bit of dragon, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff. Now, like I said, there's going to be elements of this where I'm going to be adding to it. Okay, you can see the simplistic design up there in the left, and I think the little nuances I can make it my own, while taking into consideration the original design. You know, it's funny, now that I have children, I got a soon-to-be 7-year-old and soon-to-be 5-year-old, 2 boys, and they have a newfound obsession with, Pokemon, of course, right? So they've been introducing me to characters that they like, and I thought some of those are pretty creepy, and they don't really get a lot of attention. Now, I know that in the past, some artists have drawn demonic versions of Pokemon characters, even Pikachu, and it's pretty gnarly, pretty good stuff. And there's stuff that's already scary. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm starting off with a very light outline of what I want. Now I'm looking up at this reference on my monitor, so I have this card up on my monitor. It's from the actual card set. And it looks like there are some spikes coming out of the back of the head, kind of like a Styracosaurus, which I like. And then also, there's a really good mixture of praying mantis in here too, because I'm liking those scythe-like arms. I guess that's why they call it scythe. All right, cool. Also, if you are enjoying this video, comment below and let me know some characters that you would like me to create, because there are hundreds upon hundreds of Pokemon characters waiting to be drawn, and I would love to do that. Alright, so this is what I do after I get a very basic outline in of a shape that I do like. I'm going to take my pencil, I'm going to lightly hold it at the end and on the side right here so you can see my pinky, and I'm slightly pushing up instead of resting my entire palm down. So the lighter that you hold the pencil, the more you can control the strokes when you want to be light. And then you just run it across the image. Do not stop this direction. When you start, go all the way. You got to finish the whole thing. I'm going to explain here in a second. See how I'm going to the lines that I drew and then I stop? There's a reason for that. Have you guys ever noticed that when you're starting to shade and you start to run that value across the image and you stop and then you put the pencil back down and shade again, you accidentally go over your previous shading and there's a dark streak in there. That's because you did not finish. All right. It's very hard to release pressure like off of the page and then go right back down to it with the same exact pressure. It's easier just to stay the course. That's going to help you instantly have better shading. All right. Okay, so let's hit it with one more direction just to get some nice value across that face. See how I started down here at the bottom of the jaw, and I'm going to be running up. I don't care if I go outside of the lines. That also helps with atmosphere too. So a lot of the misty look is going past the figure. There we go, I'm going all the way up. It also helps alleviate anxiety and pressure of trying to be perfect. I don't want you guys to try to be perfect when you draw. You can't. Nobody's perfect. But you can definitely refine the heck out of your drawing if you just simply don't care about being perfect at the very start. You see how I'm kind of jumping across here and really playing with different pencil strokes. I'm making some of these darker within the teeth, and you're going to start to see this pop. Now I have to make sure that I'm actually looking over this so I don't take anything out of perspective. Tell you that it's a pretty cool creature, I'll give it that. And I think it has a really thick brow ridge too, so maybe I can bring it back here and make it a little bit meaner looking. But in order to make something scary, you want to get smaller with the eyeballs. If you now, that's not to suggest that large eyeballs aren't scary. No, of course they are. But if you want to make it look mysterious and a little bit demonic and otherworldly, the smaller the eyes, the better. And if you sink in the eye sockets, it creates this demonic slash zombie look that's really, really cool when you're wanting to do something scary to begin with. Okay. The rounded eyes are, if you think about the animal kingdom, you can think about the great white shark, any shark. You know, you got your squid, okay, and you have other animals where there's no real blinking going on. There's just a jet black eye with a very, very merciless stare, and it's kind of scary. So Scyther does have a tongue, and what we'll do is we'll just give an outline here of where the tongue can come out. Now Scyther's tongue isn't very long, but in this version we're going to make it longer and snake-like. But I don't want to get into any more detail than that. I want to start this off with something that can grow at a later time. Okay, maybe this can be a little longer too. Okay, there we go. Okay, cool. And also notice I'm really focusing on this head right now because I want to bring out personality and I want to bring out a lot of the characteristics of this creature throughout the rest of the body, and you can do that in the face. So I'm applying pressure and then releasing pressure in one single direction. I'm barely pressing. This takes patience, folks. The smoothness that you see right in here it's light, but it's filling up the gaps in the paper, and that's what you want to do. Now, that's my third or fourth pass over that area, and I'm about to do the fifth pass. I suggest in most of my lessons that if you want to start shading in a sketch like this, having 3 different passes is going to give you a good foundation for graphite, or I'm sorry, for the shading to look good. Okay, let's see here. I have another picture of Scyther up on my monitor too, but I want to get that bottom jaw looking neat. So Scyther has a squared bottom jaw or chin and more of a squared nose right there. So like I said earlier, I do want to keep most of the design attributes of the original Scyther, but I'm going to change it up a little bit, and I'm probably going to make the chin here thin but also rounded, and I know that I want to add in those sharp jaws because those look awesome. So this almost might look like an evil dinosaur. So I'm not really sure how that's going to be, but we'll see. Okay, so this is more of a top-down view, front 3/4 top-down. I have to make sure that the perspective is correct. I'm very, very lightly putting in a center line for the forehead. Now, I think this calls for a bonier brow ridge and just the eyebrows in general. And we can see what happened. There's still some empty space left over with this bottom jaw, so I'm going to loosely grip my pencil and I'm going to run one direction of shading across this and into the side or inside of the mouth and across that tongue. Okay, so you know, a beginner artist would stop there and then they would go inside and shade and then they would try to shade the tongue. Well, if you just build up everything in one layer, you can always get darker on one, but you can't get lighter. So just start it light and then build up on the areas that you know are going to be darker. Now, next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put some black Prismacolor over top of this to start adding in some awesome texture. So you're probably looking at this now and going, yeah, it's just like a lizard head, whatever. But you're going to start to see the importance of the black Prismacolor. Now, fair warning, those of you that are new to my channel and haven't really seen me give lessons on the black Prismacolor, this is wax-based, and good luck erasing it if you mess up. So I want you to be confident in the original sketch that you put down before you start mixing black Prismacolor in with this. The other reason why I like adding black Prismacolor, not only does it look good, but it offers a nice wax coating so the graphite under it from the original pencil doesn't smear. I could just run my hand across there, and of course if I push hard, yeah, it's going to smear, but for the most part it will not. Alright, so I'm just darkening the eyes right here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fade out in circular motions some of the darker shades right underneath that eye. And what this does is it creates depth within the eyeball. So look how more sinister that face looks just from shrinking and darkening that eyeball. That's what you want. Now, there are some areas around here where I'm 100% confident that's what I want, which is the membrane connecting the top of the jaw to the bottom when he opens his mouth. I know I want that. Okay, the other thing I do know is this nostril hole. So I'm looking at Scyther on the card, and it looks like they're actually horizontal holes going across here. So what I'll do is I'll just turn that in a little bit, and then in perspective, so I have to look over my image to make sure that I'm sitting up straight and seeing good perspective. I'm not going to see the nostril hole on this side. Instead, I'm going to see the fleshy part that sits above the nose, and I have to make sure that that is seen over here. So now you all looking at it are getting the illusion like, hey, there actually is a nostril hole over there. I'm going to take my graphite pencil again so you can see I started the sketch off in graphite. I put a layer down that coated the entire head first. And then I put a layer down that coated it in black Prismacolor. I'm going to go back over it with pencil. Alright, and the reason I'm doing this is because when you put black Prismacolor down, the teeth of the paper accept the black Prismacolor differently than they would graphite. And what the whole ultimate goal of good shading is to fill the gaps in between the texture of the paper. So if you're drawing on rough paper, it's probably going to look like crap until you start shading a lot. Okay, it's probably going to take more passes. So just keep that in mind. So I'm tilting my sketchbook down like this. And then very, very lightly, I'm going over the mouth again. I'm not going to stop. And as I get to the top of the jaw, I'm going to widen up suddenly, and I'm just going to cover the rest of the face. I'm going to go all the way up. There we go, like that. So now you can see that there's not only a nice coating of graphite, but look at the difference in value between that and then the moleskin paper. Okay, and it looks equally as smooth. Okay, moleskin is creamish. I don't know how well you can see it on this camera because I got a studio light on it that's warm. But you can clearly see that all of the gaps are now filled in here. And I can now fill in some shading at my leisure. And what I wanted to do in this lesson is put most of the emphasis on the head, and then once I start the time lapse, and you're going to see several hours go by in the blink of an eye. I'm going to treat the rest of the body like I did this. So it's a bunch of layering. It's a bunch of, you know, lightly drawn gestural lines to figure out the shapes that I want. Okay, there we go. And I'll be talking through it too. Okay, there we go. Also, you know, you have some creative freedom here. Whenever you want to do a demonic version of something that's already cartoonish, just start adding stuff. Like some, when in doubt, add spikes, right? So I'm putting some spiky things right here on the, I guess the nostril. And what I'm doing is I'm going to the base of those little spikes, and I'm doing small circular motions, and I'm releasing pressure to fade it off into the rest of the graphite. I think another thing that beginners suffer from is they start shading an area and they don't fade the edges of the shading off into any other area. They just leave it. So it looks like two different people drew it. Don't do that. You want to layer the stuff up. This is why it takes patience. If you're not a patient person, slap yourself and be like, I'm going to be patient today, and I'm going to draw whatever I'm going to draw with conviction, patience, and understanding that this stuff takes time. There we go. Also, I have a confession to make. I recently saw some pictures of the blobfish, and for a long time I thought that the blobfish was very ugly. Lo and behold, unbeknownst to me, the pictures floating around the internet of the blobfish are from, it's like the repercussions of swimming around in such deep water that the pressure affected the fish, those poor things. I actually saw a picture of a blobfish that was really cool looking. So those of you that love the blobfish and try to defend it all this time, I was saying it's ugly. I am so sorry. I now think the blobfish is awesome. If you can actually think of a truly ugly fish, go right ahead. You know, it's funny. For years, I always thought the blobfish was ugly, and I never even really paid attention to the goblin shark. And I'm going, what is that thing? It's like nature forgot it and just decided to put what appeared to be like a narwhal spike on its head. I don't know. But I don't think that's ugly either. Oh, right. He's looking pretty gnarly, huh? Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to fade in some more shading here, and you're really going to start to see the build-up pop. And what's cool about putting an original layer of shading down is that whatever details I put on top of that, the shading between those lines are taken care of. So I don't have to worry about going back and staying inside the lines or anything like that. I know that there's no light coming in where I'm shading because that's the inside of the mouth. So I want to show you guys a little trick that I use whenever I open the mouth of a creature and there's a tongue coming out and you want to show that there's shadow inside the mouth. Do you see how I worked my way around that tongue? The tongue is going to be in shadow until it hits outside. This top jaw right here, it's casting a shadow on that tongue. So I round off the black, all right, with black Prismacolor. And then I slowly work my way up that tongue just a little bit lighter. In circular motions. The reason I do circular motions because if I go straight, I don't want to jackknife, give the edge of the tongue a jackknife look. Okay, once I start shading that, then I go in with my pencil and I'm going to work my way up that tongue until I get to about right here. That's probably where the sunlight or whatever is getting on that tongue. And I still want to hit this at multiple angles also. So I'll just use small circular motions because it's easier to control your pencil when the motions are circular in a small area. Okay, and then I'll try to round off that. I still have this. You can still see some of that tongue. I'm going to go back with black Prismacolor. I'm going to go back with black Prismacolor and I'm just going to go over it again and push a little harder. There we go. So now we have a combination, just like the face, graphite, black Prismacolor, then graphite again. Notice how black the inside of this mouth is, right in the back of the throat. What I did was I pushed just as hard as that I did when I shaded that, and then I moved it up the tongue, releasing pressure. What it does is it makes it look like there's depth going in the throat. That's what you want. I'm going to go back over it with graphite now. You see this play off of pencils. We'll be using 2 pencils. Circular motions, and now that tongue has an awesome texture to it, and it looks like it's on the inside of the mouth. That's what you want. Okay, so in about a minute, I'm going to be going into some time lapse, and this will help flesh out the rest of the character, and you'll see how I finish everything. I'm going to talk through it, and if you're drawing along with me, and if you're finding this helpful, please comment below and let me know what you're working on. It could be a school project, it could be a personal project that you're trying to build, your brand, portfolio, whatever. Now, I'd love to hear it. So without further ado, let's get into some time lapse. Alrighty, so here we are laying down some more foundation through the face. I always start with the face. I probably mentioned that before. But another thing that I like doing is whenever I find a little area that I'm intrigued by, I'll put some more outline to it, kind of like what you see here, and I'll just work my way around that area, putting in outlines, laying down a bit more shading, going back outlining, and what that does is it not only builds up values for me, I can kind of see structure happening so that I know where the shading is going to go later. It's just how I've learned to do it. I'm sure that all of you listening right now, you all have a different way of shading and finding out what area to start in. And it goes to say that art is subjective. Like, you can start wherever you want and finish however you can, and it's still awesome. All right. So now I'm just building up the face. I want this face to look good because it puts me in a better mood. Whenever I have a creature that I'm drawing and I know that I like the face, I like the eyes especially, there's conviction in it, there's personality, and just an overall mood, then I know I'll have fun drawing the rest of the picture. And I've seen people start with hands, feet, scales, the end of the tail. I'm just like, I don't know how y'all do that. All right, so you can clearly see that I'm changing that design up quite a bit, giving a more evil version of the Scyther. If you guys have suggestions on which Pokemon characters you want me to do, then comment below. I would love to hear it. I've been getting a good list, but I figure if I make a video for it, then all of the comments can just be archived in this one video instead of me surfing through other videos I've done and looking for Pokemon comments. So comment below if you have something that maybe it's a lesser known Pokemon character or one that's already evil that could get even nastier looking. I mean, because you're asking the right person if you want something to look creepy. I think that'll do that. All right, so here I'm working on the back of that head. I really like that head because it reminds me of a dragon, but at the same time, it's a little dinosaur-ish, like Styracosaurus, Monoclonius, Triceratops, all those frilled dinosaurs. There we go, and you can see me just working up my values around the jaw. And then when I'm confident in the shape that I know that I like, I will just outline it with a little bit darker of a treatment. I keep things light where I'm not quite convinced on what's going on. So I'll just keep building up. Especially in the middle of the face, you can see that I started with that eye and then I had the outline of the head. And I slowly but surely started to put in more values in that forehead because I didn't know how it was going to turn out. There's not a lot of bumps and ridges on the Scyther's design. It's very smooth. The shoulders and hips and everything are rather bubbly. So I just wanted to make sure to make it a little bit spikier. There we go. Black Prismacolor coming in. The black Prismacolor is great for finishing off dark areas. It really adds that shadow. And if you're drawing along with me, here, that would be awesome. Join our Discord. We have a Creature Design Workshop Discord, which is not just for creatures, it's for aspiring artists that want to get better, want to get a job in the industry, want to learn how to freelance, everything dealing with art. And I love asking people to share their work. We have a whole forum and channel dedicated to just doodles and finished work, sketchbooks, and you get your own thread too. So it's a lot of fun. It's a bustling community, and there's a lot of people joining per day, per week. It's just never ending. At any given time, there's almost 1,000 people online, just conversing, drawing, talking about movies. So just try to build a fun atmosphere there. We also run a tight ship, so no shenanigans. And here I'm starting to outline those really awesome wing hands. Now, when I was going through this drawing, I wanted to make sure that I didn't get so crazy and spiky and tentacly that it wouldn't look like the Scyther anymore, because that's easy. That's like an easy rabbit hole to get into. I didn't want to do that, so I wanted to keep the big, like hooked wing hands. And you'll see later in the sketch that I do add the 4 wings in the back. The other thing is my attention span is all over the place when I draw. So I'll be dedicated to one area when I'm shading, and then I get this idea like, ooh, I got to jump halfway across the continent and start shading that part, and then I come back. So that's why I started outlining those wings, or the hands. All of a sudden I saw, ooh, I got to put more spikes up in the forehead. That's okay. If you find yourself doing that, it's a lot of fun. It all comes together in the end, right? There we go. I'm glad I cut my nails before I drew this. Sometimes when I draw, I know that my hand is going to be seen by millions of people, and I have to make sure that they're not horrible looking, because you got to look at it. So what I'm doing now is the next step in bringing out the rest of the body. So I'm just now lightly putting in an outline, but that first pass of shading that I put, I knew that the torso was going to occupy that space somewhat. I do not care if that outline and the shading do not match. So if I'm going past the line, that's okay. To me, that's instant atmosphere that I can build off of. I don't have to worry about, see, I hated that arm. I do it again. I'll get into that in a minute and what I think about erasing. You guys know me by now, what I think about erasing. Sometimes you just got to do it. But anyway, the going past the lines when you're shading, it adds a lot of atmospheric perspective, and that's how I start it. So when I'm drawing, I just make sure my pencil's sharp. And when I'm shading, I don't push really hard at all. See that pass going across there? I'll go across that area probably another 15 to 20 times before the sketch is done. All these outlines that I'm putting in are parts that I'm confident in. Now I'm just turning my sketchbook in different directions. This is a tip. If you don't know this tip, you haven't seen my videos before, I've gone over this. Each person listening right now, if you are an artist, you have a specific angle that you hold your arm to where it's most comfortable to make your best lines. And you tend to compromise that when you're drawing at an odd angle and you have to twist your arm a little bit to finish the area that you're drawing. Don't do that. Just turn your sketchbook. Keep the angle of your hand the same. So that way, you're always making a comfortable line. Now, there is something to be said about learning how to shift your arm and draw. That comes with practice and time. You will do that. It's more about control than anything. See, this is pass number, I don't know, I probably went into that torso another 2-3 times. Just drawing that torso in. I was measuring the wings there because I didn't know how it was going. Yep, there's that eraser again. I think it was double shoulder time, and I had to take that out. So so what I'm doing here, I do this very often. I go back to the original semi-finished area, And depending on what the shading looks like around that area, like for example, the back of the head where all the spikes are coming out, I then knew that I had to get darker with the head spikes so that they look like they're in front, you know, perspective and making sure that the depth was there. So now the shading that I'm putting in around the neck and the jaw and the hand, I have to make sure that there's contrast with everything that I'm doing without getting too crazy about it. This is why it's so vital to keep things light. All these passes that I'm doing, I keep going across that chest. I'll do it again, and I'll do it again, and I'll do it again. The layering is key for realism. You want to make sure that you have patience. Okay, you got to make sure that you have patience because when you try to rush shading, oh, you're going to regret it. You are definitely going to regret it. All these passes that I'm doing now, see, I just turned my sketchbook again. This is vital into keeping my arm comfortable so that the lines that I put down, I'm always going to like what I put. There we go. There's another pass for the neck. There's some more details, and I'm getting a little darker so that I can see how my values play against each other. Yeah, and I had to change the angle of the camera a little bit so you can see more of it. The sketch is getting bigger. There we go. I have to watch my own drawing now just to make sure that I wasn't in the heat of the moment and I missed something, but I don't think I did. I think I stopped this drawing at about 2.5 hours, mainly because I could have just gone into way too much detail. So you'll see that later on I give a very basic outline and coating of graphite to the rest of the body, including the toes when I draw the legs. So I slowed it down just a little bit here so you can see what's going on. There we go, more shading. So that neck area is very important because the cast shadow that the head is creating, it's not going to be this huge spotlight, or I'm sorry, this huge cast shadow on the neck. The neck is fading because there's atmosphere involved. So when you have a cast shadow showing in atmosphere, you got to be really careful about that you don't get too dark. The head is going to be the darkest part because that's the focal point. There's more and more passes right here. Hope y'all are enjoying this too. I had so much fun drawing this. I think I'm just going to probably do like 20 or 30 more of these characters in a row maybe. I don't know. I enjoy it. I hope you all enjoy it because if you comment below and just tell me, hey, keep doing these, I'll listen to you. I do read all of my messages. All the comments I read. If you ask a question and I just give you a heart, that doesn't mean I ignored you. Sometimes I don't know how to answer your questions. Other times you guys ask questions that it's blatantly obvious that I have a channel. And like I had somebody ask, can you go over shading techniques? I'm like, I have 200 something videos on shading. I don't like repeating the same answer. So I just give you a heart. If I give you a heart, then that means it's already answered. There we go. Just adding more depth in there. There we go. Wings are always fun. It reminds me of, when I was a little kid and I would study animals. I would study insects, I would study birds and all the old pterosaurs, like the Dimorphodon, the Rhamphorhynchus, all those awesome creatures that would fly, the Quetzalcoatlus. And I was just amazed that things can float and fly, that birds have hollow air sacs in their bones. It's just crazy. All right, so here I'm switching around the values.
I have to be careful in this area. This is a very, very important area. This is the chest, because you can see up there in the card that the chest splits, and it looks like there's a secondary layer of armor right on top of the breastplate. And then the neck itself is just a light cream color. Most of that neck is going to be in shadow. So I have to give the indication that a neck is there, and I think the best way to do that, if you look in the back of the neck on my drawing, you can see a slight curve. There's some muscle right there that I just added in the neck. I don't get into too much detail about that area because it can get muddied really quick. So if you're a beginner artist, please know that you don't have to put detail in every single area. And I think that's why a lot of drawings lose the depth, and it just hurts the eye to look at it because there's so much to see. You can still achieve great things in a drawing. I know this is cliche to say, but less is more. It really is. There we go. Just turning the sketchbook in a way that I'm comfortable with putting my lines in. See how many passes I'm going over these wings with. It's all about hand control too. My hand is holding that pencil 3/4 of the way up. I'm not holding it down there by the graphite, like the tip. The farther down you hold a pencil towards the tip, the more you're inclined to do details. And you want to stay away from that until it's absolutely necessary to do details. Or if there is an area where you know for a certain, without a shadow of a doubt, that the details that you're about to put in there are going to be satisfactory, then do it. You can jump in. Usually that'll happen with me if ever I have an eyeball that I start with that I really like, and I know that the wrinkles that I put around that eye are going to work regardless of how they look. The wrinkles. Same thing with, jaws like I just drew where teeth are coming out and there's no lips. Like, I don't even think about that. I just do it. It's not always the case, but most of the time it is. There we go. Kind of looks like a bee. And the shapes down there on that abdomen, I want to make sure I be very simple with it. I don't put a lot of detail in anything beyond that chest. So the legs, you will see here in a little bit, the legs barely have any detail on them. Because I just purposely wanted to leave them suggestive. I didn't want anything major. The legs are not important. They're even simple in the card art. And there's not a lot to them. I want to put focus on that face. So this is where depth really comes in. So I have to be careful with, okay, the head gets the darkest treatment because it's the focal point. But as far as the arms go, which arm is in front? So that's the other play on depth. And as I'm layering these up, I can compare the abdomen and everything next to it, and then I can just plan accordingly. So its left arm is going to be darker. Now you see why keeping things fuzzy and misty is paying off. See how I don't care going outside of the lines that I outlined the foot with? It doesn't matter. It does not matter. Because it's all part of an atmosphere that the creature lives in. You'd be surprised at what kind of environment and mood that you can create by doing this on the paper. Now, I wouldn't say I was rushing through this, but I was pretty satisfied. I just outlined the toes and the claws here, and then that was it. Here we go. I was going to put music in this, and then I figured, nah. When I first started this channel back up last year, wait a minute, it's 2025. In 2023, when I started this channel, that is so crazy to say. When I started it up in 2023, I made sure, I wanted to put some music in my videos. And then I realized it annoyed the crap out of everyone, and I try to keep the volume low on it. So I don't edit my videos. Very, very few edit. I mean, me talking over a time lapse, that's the most editing I'll do in a while. maybe I was thinking about doing some cool animations and stuff, but to me, I just think what I want to do with this channel, I just want you to be a part of a classroom. That's all it is. So if I can help you get better and to not suck so much, then, my mission is accomplished. Which leads me to the next thing I want to talk about. I do run a mentorship. My private mentorship is something that I've been doing for years now. For those of you that don't know me, aside from being a concept artist for games and film, I I have been teaching for 13 years now, and I've taught in universities. I've taught online. I've mentored people. I've given workshops. I've drawn in person. It's just a part of me. I want to try to give people as much knowledge as possible. And my my mentorship is run through our Creature Design Workshop Discord. So if you checked the pinned comment and also the links in the description, it gives you most of the information about what I'm trying to do and how to contact me. So my email is bobbyrebholtz@gmail.com, and that's listed in the pinned comment, and also a link to our Discord. It's free to join the Discord. It's like I mentioned before, it's a bustling community. Everybody is enjoying it, and I think you're going to learn a lot. But I run my mentorship through there, and what it entails is you sign up. There is a fee, so I charge a flat rate of 500 USD because I try to keep it reasonable for aspiring artists, poor students. I know how that feels, and I also want you to get the best bang for your buck. I help mentor people for all kinds of things. When it deals with art, it's just drawing better. If you're awful, you can't draw a stick figure, or if you're kind of good but you still think you kind of suck. If you want to digitally paint, we got lessons on marketing, freelancing, how to find freelance jobs, how to just treat this as a hobby, how to sell your work. And if you've never had fundamental training in your life, cubes, cones, cylinders, and spheres, I go over that and I make you draw those until I'm satisfied that you have something tangible to work with, so that you're not sending your portfolio in wondering why nobody wants to hire you and your work is not good. So I try to make it good, or at least give you a good, foundation for it. So again, yeah, if you're interested in that, just please comment below or email me. Join our Discord. DM me there if you want to keep it private. All right, so now we're at that front left one. So the front left arm is in front. So I wanted to give better treatment for that one. This was such a fun creature to draw. I can't wait to see what you guys ask me. Like, you just tell me what you want me to draw and I'll do it. I've seen some very, very ambiguous and creepy Pokemon out there that I didn't even know existed, just from some of the names that you all have given me. It's pretty crazy. You got the big ones that always get the love, like the Charizard, Infernape, Pikachu. But there's some out there that are very less or not popular. So maybe I can bring life to them. If you have one in mind that's already scary and you would love to see the next step on that, yeah, let me know. See, guys, this is why I like using Moleskin. I've been using Moleskin for, about 11 or 12 years, maybe 13 years. It just makes me feel like I'm drawing on this ancient manuscript, or the same paper that pirates' treasure maps were drawn on, like old ancient ritualistic sketches. It's just, I don't know, there's just something very unique about it. So that wing part, that membrane that stretches across there, you got to be careful with that area, because that skin is way different than any other skin. It's like drawing a bat or drawing, I don't know, like a flying squirrel. If the fur is gone, that area is very important to keep smooth. So yeah, that's where I had to lay paper down. I knew that I was going to put my hand over everything, and I didn't want to ruin it. Because I don't put black Prismacolor over everything that I draw here. I did it for the face because it helps with the contrast in the very dark areas. While I was filming this, because I was going to obviously mute the volume anyway because it's time lapse, I was binge watching the ID channel, and they were talking about, murder cases, and just, it's crazy what people do. But I was watching that the entire time I was drawing this grotesque thing. Yeah, go figure. Comment below and let me know what you binge watch when you're trying to draw. I used to binge watch, well, not binge movies, but I mean, I used to do movies a lot, and sometimes it can be distracting, but for the most part, if you're watching a movie, it is the same subject matter as what you're drawing. That tends to help you keep you in the mood. If ever I would do something sci-fi or something really cool like that, I would probably plop in the soundtrack to Blade Runner 2049 or Tron. I love the soundtrack to Tron. Man, Daft Punk just outdid themselves with that one. And then, unfortunately, they retired, which is sad because I really love those guys. So here is where I'm just indicating at where the volume. I'm just indicating where the shading could be on the feet. But I don't get into a lot of detail on the feet because I don't want to focus on that area. The focus is those crazy arms and that gnarly head, and that's what I wanted to do. But there are some areas where I know that I have to get darker in, just because the light source is not going in there. I think if this was in real time, I think we're almost 2 hours in to this sketch, and there's still obviously more that I want to put in there. But we're nearing the end here. There we go. Also, I just used one pencil this entire time. Well, black Prismacolor, too, but that's not graphite. I'm using a 4B. To me, the ultimate challenge for drawing is to be able to do light, medium, and dark lines with just one pencil. That's why I like the 4B personally, because it allows me to do that. It allows me to go light, medium, and dark. There we go. So much fun. I love doing this. So that's that indication in there where you have to give an outline, but you don't want to get too crazy with it. And just ever so slightly put in some value on the stinger. Well, of course, it's not a stinger. It's Scyther's bottom. So I'm giving you enough information to let you know what's there, but I don't need to get into too much detail. There we go. And these little darker outlines, that's confidently put down in an area where I already know I'm happy with. But it's not outlining it to the point of being cartoony. So there's some texturing going on now where I'm indicating what the surface could look like without getting into so much detail that it hurts your eyes to look at it. Yeah, I had to move the camera up there. I realized you wouldn't be able to see the wing. There we go. Just keeping my hand loose, not focusing on tiny little details in the wings. I just want to get the overall texture in there. This was such an odd angle too. I must have turned the sketchbook. I don't know. Oh man, you'll see. I'm doing it now. I had to flick my hand back and forth because my arm wouldn't move anymore, the way I was situated. I lucked out for the most part not having to use that piece of paper, but in that part I did. Dull pencils make dull drawings. Always remember that. You got to be very careful. There we go. At this point in the drawing, I had to tell myself, okay, Bobby, please do not spend another 2 hours on detail. There's no point. So part of the discipline that comes with art is knowing when to stop. And if you have that struggle, time yourself with your cell phone. So most of the assignments that I give my students, especially my mentorship, their thumbnail sketches will last probably 3 to 5 minutes. And I ask them to put their cell phones out to time themselves on it. That really does help. And then what you do is you start to learn that timing scheme in your mind. And also, if you guys are struggling with drawing, just know that if you give your drawings a focal point, focus on the focal point, you're good. So we're wrapping it up now, folks. And I just want to say that I really enjoyed this sketch. Thank you all for suggesting these characters. Please keep going. Comment below, like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. And I'll let this play out until it's done. You can watch in silence, meditate, concentrate,